I want to welcome everyone this evening to a non-rainy evening. It's kind of nice. It's freezing, but it's lovely. And I want to welcome to the Parks and Community Service Commission meeting of Thursday, February 8th. And I'd like to now call the meeting to order officially at 6 p.m. sharp. What I'd like to do is ask Commissioner Wall to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we can also have the roll call at this time. Ms. Fatua?
Yes. Yes. Let's see. 1 second. Okay. Commissioner Glab?
Here.
Commissioner Garcia Arcos?
Here.
Commissioner Wall?
Here.
Commissioner Rutherford? Commissioner Wright? Vice Chair Brown?
Present.
Chair Dorn Parker?
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I believe we have a presentation about the capital improvement project update, and after that, we will take public comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Parks Commission. I'll give I'm Raja Sethuraman, Public Works Director, and I'll give a brief update on various park projects. So starting with the Costa Mesa Tennis Center, as you know, this project involves converting the existing lighting to LED, the project is, was approved by council. They approved in 2 phases. One was the purchase of actual lights, and the second one was for the installation, because we cannot have the contract for the purchasing do the installation. So this was approved separately. And for the tennis center, we determined that the poles have to be replaced too, in addition to the lights, because of the age of the poles. So the installation is scheduled to begin in spring of 2024, and will coordinate with the tennis center on that project. The next is Jack Hammett, same update as the tennis center. So this again will be beginning in the spring of 2024. We have the contract for both lights and the installation. For Ketchum-Leibold Park, the design firm was approved by the council on January 16th. So we're eager to get started on the design. We have a conceptual rendering, as you are aware, of a couple of options, and we'll be working with the consultant and have outreach meetings on that when we get started. The next is Shalimar, same as Ketchum-Leibold. Again, we have a couple of design options. Council approved a consultant for this project too on January 16th. So we are moving forward on the project, and we'll update you when community meetings are scheduled. Tiwinkle Athletic Complex improvements. There are a couple of projects in this one. One is the drainage issues and the batting cage requests that we have. The other one is the LED lighting. The LED lighting has the same update as the other LED lights. We have the same contractor who will be doing the installation and was approved on the 16th. The improvements to the drainage and other, we'll be working with some of the interested parties on that, and come up with a formal scope and see if we have the budget. If not, we'll be requesting budget in the next fiscal year. So that'll be underway shortly. Tiwinkle Park lake repairs. This design is complete, and we advertised the project for construction, and we're expecting bids on the 12th. So it's coming. So once we get the bids, assuming we get good bids, it'll go to council for approval. Skate park, So the council did approve this project, and we initiated the design. We had a couple of meetings with the consultant to talk about the project, to discuss the scope. We also gave an update on the project to Supervisor Foley, and then I will be scheduling community outreach meetings in March timeframe. So again, we'll update you when the actual date is scheduled, so you can be part of it. This first meeting will be there won't be any design to show per se, but it'll be more to gather ideas, get feedback from the community as well as the skating population that's out there. Finally, Brentwood Park. As we are working on the other park projects, we will be initiating this project shortly. We think in summer we can get going with the design. Again, we'll have some ideas. We already have some ideas. We'll put some things on paper so we can show that to the community, and then proceed with design on the project. So that's my update, and we'll have this update. I'm sure it'll be on our website. So if you have any questions, we can answer.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask the commissioners if they have any questions about the report. So it looks like Commissioner Vice Chair Brown, you look like you have questions. I do. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I just want to begin by thanking you again for this document, because it's helpful to have all of the CIP projects in one place. So a couple of questions. The first is, are these all of the CIP projects?
So unfortunately, no.
Okay.
So we have about 80 other projects that we are working on. Some are on hold, but we are working on many projects. A lot of these projects are being handled by, as you can see, either by our maintenance services manager, Rob, or myself, and we have our recreation manager, Monique, also playing a big role on some of these projects. So it's a team effort from us, and of course our city engineer, Sung Yang. So we are all part of this, and we are, the council has identified these as the high priority projects. So we are putting our attention to these more than anything else. We want to make sure that these projects get done. And you'll see some of the projects, and you'll see, for example, we had a ribbon cutting for Butterfly Garden. That was another project, and we'll have other things happening in parallel, but these are our focus.
And the Butterfly Garden was lovely. We didn't do commissioner comments, or maybe
Right now,
this is, okay, sorry.
yeah, this presentation, then, yeah.
I'll focus. So when I first looked at this document a few months ago, when you guys unveiled it, something that I forgot about was Fairview Park CIP projects. And that's something that I think would be helpful to have on this document. So I hear that this is a document that outlines high priorities. I think certainly for me, but maybe even for this commission, it might be helpful to keep Fairview Park as part of this, because otherwise, frankly, I forgot. What's nice about having one document is that everything is in one place, and so it's just easy to follow along. So I think that would be a recommendation I would have, is to include the Fairview Park as part of this, so that we just have it in one place. You could have it separated on a second page if you need to indicate that priority level. Because one of the reasons that that's important is the public outreach, public engagement aspect that I know that's important to the city council and to us. When I look at this chart, I'd be curious to know, do we have a sense of when the outreach meetings are anticipated to be held, or is there a projected date by which, like, we would like to have Ketchum Libel outreach meetings in this period? It could even just be like fall 2024. I'd be curious to know what that public outreach meeting schedule is, if we know it, and if we don't know it, could we have that maybe for the next update?
Of course. So Vice Chair Brown, I think you brought a big important point on Fairview Park. We have 3 Fairview Park projects that I need to make sure are included too. So we have we'll make sure that we'll cover those projects too, next time. with respect to the outreach meetings, no, they'll be happening very shortly. My goal is to get all the design for the Shalimar, Ketchum Bolt, and the skate park all done by September. So which means we'll have outreach meetings in March and April for all of these projects, and a follow-up in May. So it'll be happening very soon.
So if we're going to do outreach meetings in a month and a half, that means we will want to let people know
Yes.
like next week, because that's one of the concerns that I've heard from people, is that there's not enough lead time to actually get out, in addition to thinking about creative ways to do outreach. So going to where people are at versus having people come here, that will be important to get those advertised really soon. Wow, okay.
Yes, Vice Chair Brown, in our city manager's office, with whom we are actually working very closely, and I forgot to include Alma Reyes also in one of our team members here. We have Brock Howard, who is our outreach specialist. He's our public affairs manager, and he's well in tune with that aspect of getting out early and often on public outreach. So we will be doing that. So when we get to that, when we know dates, we'll be certainly going out and canvassing.
Any other commissioners? Do you have any questions at this time? All right, at this point, then what I'm going to ask is to see if any public comments on this report. Is anybody here? Come on up. Let me see if I can turn the podium mics on. There we go. Hey.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. Also love the presentation. I'm a member of the Fairview Park Steering Committee, Andy Campbell, so I was going to make the same comment. There's $4 million at least in projects that aren't on that list, so it kind of begged the question, like, what's a priority project for City Council? So it'd be good to see those projects added to the list. There's a Fairview Park Steering Committee, I believe it's next week. Is that perhaps something that it could be added? I'm sure maybe you can address, Mr. Dalton, if that similar presentation is going to be made to the steering committee. It'd be nice to have those projects on there. And also to know from the public, so as a member of the public, how much money is in the budget for these projects, how much money has been committed, so we can see, are they under budget, on budget, over budget? I think the city would, the members of the citizens would love to see how much money the city is spending on these projects, and it's being spent wisely. And as a priority, if we get free money from the state of California, it'd be nice to see those projects as an elevated priority. All the other mid-money projects are on that chart, so the Fairview Parks definitely belong on that table. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the chamber that would like to speak? Then Ms. Fatua, do we have anybody on Zoom?
Not at this time.
Correct. All right, at this time, I will open up for commissioner comments on the presentation. We do commissioner comments general later. So do we have any at this time? All right. Oh, you do. Okay. Commissioner Wall.
A couple of things. The first thing I want to do is hold up this magazine. This is the city spotlight that we do for Parks and Recreation, or Parks and Community Services. Sorry about that. Every time I get this thing, I just look at it and I marvel at the color and the way it's done, the way it's created. I mean, how could you not pick this up and browse through it? It just looks so good. So I want to give huge props to the entire team that helped put this thing together.
Keep going.
Is that the hook? Get the hook? Okay. No, this is outstanding. And I've lived in lots of other cities other than Costa Mesa, and they can't hold a candle to this kind of creativity and production. So props to everybody that's part of that. Second is my first anniversary on this commission. It would have been last month, but I missed January of last year because I was out of town, couldn't make it. So this is officially my first year anniversary. And I just want to say that it's been a treat, a joy, and an honor to do this. Engaging with the city, engaging with the city council and the different departments within the city, as well as my fellow commission members. This has been quite an interesting journey, and that first couple of months was a learning curve, but I jumped into it headlong and picked up a lot. And so just wanted to acknowledge that this commission is doing good stuff, and we'll just continue to improve as we go. Last thing on my comments are, and this is a question. I live very close to Tanager Park, and that's the one park that doesn't have a monument sign. And that always caught me by surprise. And so the question is, how do we get one? What's the proper procedure? What are the steps that we can get one for Tanager Park? And that's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're taking, that's wonderful that you had your comments. We're taking comments on the presentation, and then we'll move to public comments, then our general. That's okay. That was my error.
My bad.
I'm sharing this. I didn't make that clear. I loved hearing your comments. No problem. So does anybody have any comments on the CIP report we just received? Okay. So at this point in time, then we move on to public comments. So if anybody wants to have comments related to items not on the agenda, please come forward.
Good evening, Kim Hendricks, and I'm here tonight to share with you, commissioners, some calendars from Fairview Park Alliance. We really think that Fairview Park is a really unique place. And I can't say I've lived in Costa Mesa my whole life. I've lived all around the world. I lived in Greece as a child. I'm from upstate New York. And actually, the whole world is my home. And I think, and I've seen a lot of places, and Fairview Park really is a unique place worth saving. Also, I would love it, I just want you guys to know that the Harbor Soaring Society is damaging the vernal pool watershed. May 2nd, 2023, City Council allowed them to go back in. They wiped out all this native tar plant. They call it weeds. They have no understanding. And I guess I'm saying this because there's not a lot of people here, so they don't feel like I'm putting them down. But that's the reality I want you guys to know. And it really kills me to see such a unique place being destroyed so frivolously for a small group of hobbyists when they have 5 other places within 21 miles, and it robs the whole community. So it's a small interest group versus the whole community. So anyway, these are for the commissioners. And also, did I give you one at the steering committee meeting? I don't know. Okay, so one for you too. Anyway, also concerts in the park. I was told that last year was the last year for it to be into Fairview Park, so I'm curious where it will be this year. And that's about it. So anyway, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else in the chamber that wants to speak on items not on the agenda? Do we have anybody on Zoom at this time, Ms. Fatua?
Not at this time.
Okay, great. Now at this time, we will move to commissioner comments. So I will go ahead and see Commissioner Garcia Arcos. Do you have comments generally as a commissioner?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And just wanted to give a huge shout out for Shalimar. They really came through. The moms really got together. They've been collaborating to do a lot of kermeses. For those who don't know what a kermes is when people get together, they do a little fundraiser, sell food, and help someone in need. Just one project was able to raise $10,000 for a family. One of my friends, his sister has terminal cancer, and then his mom is in a coma, has been in a coma for 2 months now. And so we were able to kind of give him that small relief, financial relief. And then we actually got a recognition today by Trellis at the City Leaders Gathering Neighboring today in the morning. And also a huge shout out to Juana Trejo. She's been a great advocate for the well-being of everybody that has a need. So that's what I'm celebrating today. So it was great, and whoever wants to volunteer, please reach out to Raina Cuthill. She has a lot of work, and she's done a lot for us, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Glab, do you have anything this evening? Okay, so we'll move down to Commissioner Wall. Do you have anything else?
Nothing else.
That was lovely comments. So Vice Chair Brown.
I just wanted to start by saying that I attended the Butterfly Park unveiling last week, and it was lovely. It was really nice to see a lot of city folks turn out and some neighbors. And it was, I know it's the first butterfly garden in the city with more to come, if I'm correct. So that's an exciting beginning. And just really thoughtful details in terms of butterfly cookies and cupcakes. It was really nice. The one thought I had is it was hard because it was on a work day at like 10 a.m. And so as a working parent, I went because I'm part of this commission and I have a flexible job. But I had that moment where I was like, if it was on a weekend where we could have gotten the local folks out to go who would have really loved those cookies and cupcakes, it would have felt fuller of the community. And so I recognize that it's on a day that city staff don't typically work, but we might think about maybe for the next Butterfly Park unveiling, we hold it on a weekend so that people can turn out. Because it was special and it was nice and it was thoughtful. And I just want more people to be able to see that and participate. And the last thing I would just say is my public service announcement. There's an election in March, so if you have not yet registered to vote, please register to vote. Please vote. I think I even got something in the mail that tells me where I can vote in the city of Costa Mesa. Is it in the spotlight? Okay, maybe it's not in the spotlight. It was in something else in my mailbox. So please go out and register to vote.
Thank you. I just have a few things, and actually register voters when you get your local practice ballot. It has locations. Yeah, so that's where you go. So, and we do have the city of Costa Mesa, which is wonderful that they're sponsoring as a community. Thank you. Just a few things. I was unable to attend the unveiling of the Butterfly Park, but I was able to go by. I'm calling it the Butterfly Park instead of Marina Park. It's funny. People are always like, why is it called a marina? There's no marina. Well, there was supposed to be a marina built below the Marina Park. So so that was a little trivia because I was there and one family came up because I was looking at the Butterfly Park. Also, in walking my district, needed to let the staff know the community surrounding Brentwood is really interested in what the city's going to do. They're really excited to have ADA compliant. We have some families who have children that cannot access, so I just am really excited to move forward, and they're really excited. It's a bikeable park for the community. It's in off main streets on one side, so that'll be really nice. Also, I want to thank the staff and also our police department and our park rangers. Harper Park, it's evolving. There seems to be less dogs off leash. There's also conversations with the district about how to utilize the space better so that the community knows when the community can use the large fields and when they can't. The good news is there's another sport for girls in high school called flag football. So the high school's going to maybe use that field for flag football because the high school doesn't have any more fields, and I'm all for Title IX and making sure more girls have opportunities galore. So it's an evolving, very well-used park. So thanks to the staff for going along and trying to figure all this out. And then also we have the new Costa Mesa app. So everywhere I go, you all know I'm very shy, so I always am out there saying I'm your park commissioner, and then they'll say, oh, there was this issue, that issue. So I'm leading them to the app. So if you all want to do the same, that's great. That would be great. Anything else from the commissioners? I'm going to go move that. All right. At this time, under old business, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Oops. I don't think that is the,
Can you try now to see?
so you want to try, do you want to make a motion? There we go. We have a motion made by Brown, seconded by Glab. At this time, do we open it up to public comments for minutes? If anybody has a question about the minutes? Any of the commissioners have questions or changes in the minutes? All right. At this time, if everybody could vote to approve or not approve the minutes.
Motion carries 5-0 to approve the January commission meeting minutes.
Great, thank you. At this time, under new business, we do have a donation of 2 trees, a memorial bench, and a plaque for Fairview Park. So at this time, let me see, the staff, if we have a little bit of information, that would be great.
We do, thank you.
Okay.
Chair Doran Parker, Commissioners, good evening. Maintenance Services received a letter from Michael and Denise Moon requesting permission to donate a bench, plaque, and 2 trees in memory of Denise's father, Dr. Anthony Casiagli. The donated items will be located in the developed area at Fairview Park. A little history about Dr. Casiagli. He was born in Manhattan in 1929. He was a U.S. Army veteran who fought in the Korean War. He graduated from Cornell University with a degree in veterinary medicine in 1958. He was married and the father of 3 children, one of them being Denise Moon. He moved to Costa Mesa to be near his children, and because he needed help with daily tasks, he moved in with his kids. Mr. and Mrs. Moon expressed that he loved parks, trees, and had a special affinity for the birds that frequented the park. He enjoyed walking in the park, but as his stamina decreased as he grew older, he had to stop and rest more often and really appreciated the bench along the way. Mr. and Mrs. Moon did have the opportunity to speak with Dr. Casiagli, or Mr. Casiagli, about his desire for remembrance, and he fully supported the idea of donating a bench and a tree to the trees to the city. The species of the tree has not been determined. However, the city arborist will work with the Moons and the Fairview Park Administrator to select a tree that fits with the existing native plant pellet within the park. The bench will match an existing site furnishing. This bench is an existing memorial bench donated in honor of Robert Graham. This one's located out near the bluff, the stairs to Talbert and the wetlands. So it looks similar to this with the plaque being installed in the bench. Maintenance staff has identified the potential location of the bench, which is in the turf area adjacent to the existing pathway. That's indicated by the star at the top of that map that you see before you. Obviously, that's a rough estimate, not to scale. 1 tree would be located nearby the bench, obviously a little ways away from the pathway to make sure that it doesn't disturb that sidewalk pathway. The other tree will be located a little closer to the entrance of the park, as depicted by the other star down kind of towards the center right of that map. The donations and the locations were reviewed by Mr. Dalton and the Fairview Park Administrator. These are a couple other pictures. The one on the left is a rough location where the bench and the first tree would be located, and the second is for that second tree. Maintenance staff reviewed the suggested location along with the Fairview Park Administrator, who determined that it's suitable for the donation of bench, plaque, and trees. The installation of the materials will have minimal fiscal impact on the city. The donor will incur the majority of that cost for the donated items, or actually they incur all the costs for the donated items, and staff provides the installation. The submitted request meets the requirements that's set forth by the City Council policy. You have that policy attached in your documents. Therefore, it's recommended that the Commission approve the request from Mr. and Mrs. Moon for the donation of the memorial to Dr. Casiagli. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. At this time, we'll take questions from the commissioners. Is there anybody that has questions about it? Yes, Commissioner Garcia Arcos.
Just out of curiosity, what nursery are you guys purchasing or getting the donation from?
So currently we have agreements with several nurseries. One of them, our most prominent, is AY Nursery. They have several locations throughout the Southern California area, but that's predominantly who we use.
Okay. This is great news, and what I've noticed at Lions Park, there's a tree, what is it, a Pinus canariensis, that I had to bring to attention to the staff that it was leaning at one point. This was about a year and a half ago. And I'm noticing that there's a lot of those type of trees that are being donated that don't have the right structure. What my recommendation would be is to invest a little bit more time to go out to the site, pick the right tree that has the best structure, because it's a memorial tree. We want it to last for many, many years, not just 10 years, which is the average. Unfortunately, that's the average urban forestry lifespan of a tree, according to a trillion, Planting a Trillion podcast. John Mahoney, son of Pat Mahoney, mentioned that. And I'm not sure where he got the research, but I can look into that. So I just basically saying, like, let's invest a little bit more time into choosing the right trees so they can live longer than the average.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, absolutely. We receive representative photos of the trees that we're going to be purchasing prior to. Once they're delivered, when they're placed on the ground at the corporate yard, they are inspected immediately by the city arborist prior to them leaving, the truck leaving the yard. Any tree that is noted that has poor structure is rejected, and we request a replacement tree immediately.
How often do you guys reject trees?
It really depends on what we're seeing come in. It's not typical. Usually we're catching those things. They're pretty easy to catch in some of the photos that we get. Photos are from multi-directional.
Yeah.
So we usually choose from those photos. So it's not very often that we have to reject trees. I would say, based on my past experience, maybe a couple of times a year, we've rejected that one tree out of maybe a delivery of 20 or 30 trees.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Glab.
Hello, Mr. Ryan. How many of these requests for trees and benches do you get a year, or ballpark, do you think?
Good evening. It varies from year to year. I would say maybe 2 to 3 a year.
Okay. Then I just read this letter from Ms. Hendricks, and she states that in the past, residents have requested benches and plaques, and they were denied. Do you know anything about that from the past, why they would be denied? Is that the commission who denies it?
I'm not aware of any recent denials in the time that I've held this position. I can't recall. I believe, I think initially for this specific request, the requestor asked that it be placed out towards the bluffs. And we did, redirect him into the developed area of the park, given the nature of the bluffs, the projects that are ongoing there. He requested it be next to the existing bench. So, but other than that, I'm not aware of I haven't had one denied by the commission. And to the best of my knowledge, staff has not denied any
So
requests.
it's probably been a while. So they can resubmit? Would they be able to resubmit, or they can only submit once for a bench or a...
There's no criteria as far as resubmitting. They can absolutely resubmit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Vice Chair Brown.
Thank you. I love the donation of benches and trees. I think it's really special, and I would want to make sure that we go into it preserving that feeling, because I think it is important for community members to be seen in that way. So I guess I have one question and then a comment. Why wouldn't a request like this go to the Fairview Park Committee before coming to us?
So in reviewing with staff, this request falls outside their scope and criteria for the Fairview Park Steering Committee. The installation of park benches are not considered significant changes according to Measure AA. So the governing policy is that 800-4. So this is the appropriate body for this to be considered.
Yeah, Vice Chair Brown, we're just following the council policy that is on paper right now.
So something that I'm thinking about, I'm going to talk about public engagement again, because it's my thing, but we have a very invested public in the Fairview Park Committee. We have a member here right now and somebody who always comes to the meetings. I see them as a primary public for Fairview Park. If the city of Costa Mesa had committees for all of its parks, I would not be making this argument. I would argue we've got another issue on our hands. But Fairview Park is something special. It's something singular. It's very complex, ecologically, historically, socially. And so it warrants having, I assume, I actually don't know all the history, but it warrants having a committee. I worry about what this communicates to that public, the Fairview Park Committee, and the people who attend their meetings by not having something like this go in front of them. And the reason that I'm the reason that I'm encouraging us to maybe reconsider this and getting their input is that you have a couple of reasons. One, you have a body of experts on that committee, and I think it would behoove us to have them make recommendations. We can decide to take recommendations or not, right? But it would behoove us to have the experts on Fairview Park weigh in, or people who identify as that and that we've, chosen to be a part of that. I want to honor that process too, the process of public engagement. And it feels like somehow, we haven't had an opportunity to get those folks to weigh in. And I think it's a missed opportunity for public engagement, to be quite frank. And so I would encourage us to take a 1-month delay so that this could be run in front of the committee. They can make recommendations, they can have a discussion, and then we could revisit it in a month. That's just it. I'm not sure if I have any specific recommendations in terms of city council policy, but in light of our stated desire for public engagement, I think that's something we should consider.
Okay, and any other commissioner? Yes, Commissioner Garcia.
So I was just walking around the park and I was inspecting some of the trees. Are they London plane trees or sycamore trees?
There are California sycamores at the park, yes.
Okay. Have you noticed that a lot of them are starting to decline, like the smaller ones? There's a lot of damage from the lasers. The lasers, for those who don't know, are the lawnmowers that you sit on. I noticed that there's a lot of damage from those going over the roots. And can we prevent those damages for future trees that we plant around the area?
Yes, absolutely. Typically, we have the tree stakes and the tree wells that try to prevent that damage. I know sometimes those root zones go out a little further than those tree wells, but absolutely, staff is directed to go out there and inspect and monitor and make the contractor aware of issues out there.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? At this time, before we open it to public comments, we did receive a member of the public, Kim Hendricks's email that was distributed. But at this time, before we make any recommendations or motions, are there members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Yes. Wait, here we go.
I'm Andy
going?
Campbell
Now you're
with the
on.
Fairview Park Steering Committee, and again, thank you for having me up here. I was the chairman for most of the life of the committee. I recently became more of a citizen, still on the committee though, but I've given up the chair just to take a break. I think procedurally, yes, we would like to see these types of requests. It's sort of a slippery slope, like how far can the city go in Fairview Park without including the committee? There's several flawed analysis before you here. We've talked about an ordinance. That ordinance in your packet was approved in 2002. It was updated in 2004. But since then, there is a Measure AA, and you've heard an interpretation today. Yes, the Measure AA was passed by the voters. It does have an allocation that allows benches to put in. However, it doesn't say anything about putting in a tree. The Fairview Park Steering Committee has been involved in selection of trees in the park. We've weighed in on removal of some trees that were causing damage to the park. The process of putting in a tree requires excavation. The AA doesn't mention excavation, it mentions grading. Maybe they didn't use the right choice of words, but putting in a 15-gallon tree is going to require 12 to 15 cubic feet of soil be removed. It's in an archaeological rich area. Archaeology hasn't even been discussed here today. There are ancient societies that have their citizens are buried in the park ceremonially, and we would not want to excavate a hole erroneously onto one of those. So there are precautions that should be taken. So what I would ask is those things be considered by the steering committee. Mr. Dalton circulated a letter to the committee stating why this was an okay thing. He used logic like, this is not a capital project, but the AA doesn't mention capital projects, it just mentions projects. So, this is a small project, but it's still within the spirit of preserving the park and the archaeology. He also mentioned that this is okay because it's in the grass area. Well, buried archaeology does not respect what's underneath the grass. And so I would recommend that you defer this to the steering committee. We have a meeting next week. This could easily go on our calendar. we can weigh in. I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with the tree as long as it's the right species and the ground is cleared. There's no problems in the subsurface. And a bench. I don't think anybody really matters about putting another bench in the park, but really consider the process. We do have a committee. You know, we love to have the issues of the park addressed at our committee, and we can make an educated recommendation to you both on what's actually in AAA and not spin it to kind of honor the wishes of a family who's, you know, their patriarch lived the last 4 years of his 94-year life in Costa Mesa. You know, no hard feelings for anybody that wants to honor their family with a park in the city and a bench, but, you know, let's go about it the right way. There's no rush. This person passed away last April. You know, perhaps there's an anniversary of his passing coming up, but thank you very much for considering.
Thank you. We do have another public comment.
Yes. So I agree with Mr. Campbell that it should be seen before the Fairview Park Steering Committee, as well as the MIG consulting team that is updating the Fairview Park Master Plan, because they have experts on their team. Travis Brooks with Land IQ is an expert in grassland restoration, high success rate for restoring. Also, where you buy the tree. Thank you, Mr. Garcia Arcos, because it would be nice to have something, maybe a tree of life, something that isn't a hybrid. So there are a lot of, I think, considerations that need to be done prior to this vote. Just because that of Fairview Park being such a unique place. And Mr. Glab, it was, since, you know, it's a small group, it was Cynthia D'Agosta, the former Fairview Park administrator, and we asked her about putting in a tree or a plaque, and we didn't say a plaque, we wanted a tree and a bench. She said, no, it was very inappropriate to put anything like that in Fairview Park, which is a nature park. There are other parks, you have Vista, you have Canyon, for that. Also, there, how Mr. Graham's bench got through was kind of unique. He had been a parks commissioner, you know, for many years. So his role in saving Fairview Park, I guess, was grand enough. So, and it does look right out to the mountains, so there is a bench already there. There aren't benches in Canyon, which would be nice. And also the mentioning, I like how you mentioned, it's always, I'm sorry, overwatered there on the grassy area. It's always muddy. It's really, I mean, let's do things right. I'm so tired of seeing things not done properly. And I'd like to really see about getting a conceptual design of Fairview Park completed to show the public. It was easy for Mensinger to get a conceptual design of sport fields on the east side, but it seems like it's impossible to get a conceptual design of Fairview Park completed and beautiful so the public can enjoy it. So that's another thing I'd like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hendricks. At this time, is there anybody else in the chambers? Ms. Fatua, anybody online?
Not at this time.
At this point, we will close public comments. So I hear a commissioner would like to make a motion.
Chair, if I can interrupt one second.
We need to do, yes.
I just want to note that Kelly Dalton, our Fairview Park Administrator, is here in the audience today. In case the commission does have any questions for him, he's here to answer.
Oh, okay. So at this, I guess, does anybody have questions regarding the process or this? Okay. So at this time, thank you. So do we have a motion?
Well, I would move that this would go before the Fairview Park Committee, if their meeting is next week, and that we would see it the following week.
So in the following meeting?
Sorry, the following meeting.
Okay.
In March.
So we have a motion to delay the acceptance or not acceptance of the donation. So I just want to clarify, to go through the Fairview Park Committee. and that it will be returned to the PAX Commission at the next regular meeting. Is that what you're asking for?
I am, and just to be clear, this isn't to forestall the placement of the bench or the park, but in the spirit of public engagement and expertise and what have been ongoing conversations, I would like to honor both that committee and honor the people who are requesting this, that in the best possible spirit, this is reviewed by those folks who would like to review it. So yes.
Okay, so we have a motion before us. Is there a commissioner that wants to second that? Okay, so Commissioner Wall, are we ready to take a vote? Did you get that, Ms. Fatua, what the motion is?
We have a move by Commissioner Brown and seconded by Commissioner Wall, correct?
Correct.
Oh, right. Okay, so now you may start your votes.
Okay.
Motion carries 5-0 to move this item to the next agenda.
Thank you. And at this time, we move on to monthly reports. We do have the Park Ranger report before you, and I would just want to comment that we did receive from a member of the public, Ms. Tanaka, input about updates. So I don't know if there's any updates to how the reports are evolving, or if you have updates or information for us on these reports before we review.
So I don't have any updates for you tonight. I know our PD has been looking at these reports, and these are the formats that they are providing for now. If there's any updates, we will bring them to you in future meetings.
Okay. At this time, do we have any questions from the commissioner on the report as it's appearing? Vice Chair Brown?
In the past, so I really appreciate Ms. Tanaka's letter, because in the past, when Anjali Vallarta was on the commission, we had some concerns about what we were reading in the park ranger reports. And it's been, and the kinds of concerns that we had in terms of what violations were happening at which parks, and the predominance at certain parks over others. And with the move to this, it entirely removes our ability to provide any oversight. And so, I just want to register that was a conversation that we had here in a prior commission meeting. And so I feel, we do suffer from a dearth of information. But my one suggestion, so less a question, but a suggestion is, in the past, we talked about having a park ranger or a police officer come and present to us on the reports. I would welcome that. So if we could schedule that at some point in the future in order to talk through maybe what our interests are, what our concerns, their challenges in doing it, so that we can understand why the move to this format. I think that would be helpful. I think that's it.
We can talk to PD and see how we can arrange that.
Any other commission comments? Yeah, so I appreciate the summary as it is, but if we could have some backup data about especially those that then when there's arrests and citations, because that really did help us summarize, and as a park commissioner for me selfishly, so I could see trends, and then we could identify, as we had in the past, that some of the citations were leading to situations that was not in the best interest of either the park or our residents. And so I think as we, as sort of a volunteer group, this would be great if we could do the summaries, but I also have a little bit of the details behind it. I personally would like that, so that I'm a 30,000 foot, but look at the summaries and then go into the detail kind of person. So if that would be great. And then I do believe we did have the park ranger police officer came in about once a quarter or once every 4 months or so to just sort of give us an overview of what was happening and what they saw in the parks and what the challenges were. And I also believe a few of us have done the park ride along. So if you haven't done it, that might be something to do. That really gave me selfishly a really good understanding of their work, what was going on in the parks, the concerns at certain parks and other improvements and other resources the city was providing some of the people that were unhoused at the parks, and also the way that they could bring I can't remember what you call it, but it's the temporary rec groups that were coming in and now they're back. So it would be really nice to learn that. So that, for me, that would really be helpful for me. So any other comments this time? Okay. Do we have any public comments about the park ranger report? Okay.
I'm just going to sneak this in.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
The lady sitting behind Mr. Dalton is Jennifer Thomas. She's also a Fairview Park Steering Committee. She was a little reluctant to introduce herself, so I thought I would do it for her, just so you know that there's more than just me here in the room. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. Okay. Are there any public comments online? At this point, public comments are now closed on this. And if we can move to the director's report.
Right. Good evening again. I'm not too much going to go into depth into some of our program numbers, but as usual, our programs are thriving even in the winter. We're having great turnout. I do want to highlight one special activity that we are doing, and I think it's important to note because we're trying to get this program up and running, is our Adaptive Access Costa Mesa programs. And what we've been doing is having these small meetups called Conversation Over Coffee, where we host at different locations conversations where we invite whoever to come and speak about what they might need. I thought that was a very special way of doing our outreach to this group, of finding out what they need in terms of programming. We've done it twice now, and we're going to continue to do it for as long as we can, because that's what we're hearing from the public at these meetups. We're providing coffee and pastries, and we really just sit down, whether it was at a park. This last weekend, we had it at a coffee shop. And what we're finding is that it's not just people coming out to talk about adaptive programming specifically sometimes. We're getting, I've gotten a few handfuls of just people coming to talk about their local parks. I think it's very intimate in terms of a conversation where people feel they can connect to our department specifically, and so that they feel like they're being heard, and that's at least what I've taken away from it. And so we're going to continue to do these for as long as we can. I thought that was a very special way to get this program up and running, but we're also hearing from the public at large, which is nice to do. But with that, I wanted to say we have our adaptive, all abilities friendly dance happening tomorrow night. Oh no, April 19th. I mean, it is tomorrow night, sorry, at the Costa Mesa Senior Center. And we had one already, and I really encourage you all to stop by, even if it's just for 5-10 minutes, because it's truly a special event. There's not a lot of participants. It's not a Snoopy house where we have 20,000 people attend over a course of 7 days, but it's really touching, and it just goes to show you that Parks and Recreation, it's whether it's one person or 20,000 people, it's still important to serve them all. So I encourage you all to come out to that tomorrow night. But I think with that, I'm going to leave it to the report, and if you have any questions, I'm here.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions on the report? Okay. Are any members of the public wish to speak on the director's report? I don't see anybody jumping up. Anybody online? Nope. Okay. So at this time, public comments are now closed. At this point, I'll take additional commissioner member or staff comments, if anybody has anything in addition. Have anything in addition? I just want to say, This is an amazing work. I will concur with Commissioner Wall. I have a lovely little block I live on. We have so many young families that are new to Costa Mesa. They were really saving their nickels to be able to get back into Costa Mesa. They were raised here, or their significant other was raised here, or their family was. And I can't tell you, because they all know that I'm their park commissioner, I can't tell you how many came by and said, this is so well presented, it's very organized. They were thrilled to see, not just was for their kids, but there's an expansion of adult ballroom dancing and ballet and guitar. This is really, I know coming out of the pandemic, it's been sort of more, and I can appreciate the staff, it's been more deliberate instead of just throwing things against the wall, doing things again and figuring out, but really understanding how the events and the services and resources of the city enhance all of our lives. So I just want to say thank you, but I received so many comments on this particular one. I've always said, oh, this is great, but this, the way it's laid out was just wonderful. So I just want to give you all kudos. This has just been, I know, an improvement, enlargement, and we're moving and the engine's running really on full speed ahead, but I know that we're going to be adding lots and lots of train pieces to this train. So thank you.
I just want to give kudos where it's deserved. Tiana Johnson, our recreation supervisor, she puts that together from beginning to end. After this one goes to print, she starts on the very next season, and she's gone above and beyond with research for the redesign when it happened, and as far as teaching herself Adobe Illustrator and all those programs where she puts it all together herself. So
kudos. But I also love this, is your dog licensed with the glasses? I'd love, is your dog licensed and on a leash? I would love to have a little bit more information to encourage dogs on leashes as well as licensing. So thank you. Anybody else at this time? This is great. At this time, I'll take then a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second? Anybody want a second? Second for the vice chair, and we are adjourned. Thank you all, and thank everybody in the audience for coming.